We all have what some people would call a pretty good normalish life. So I decided to talk about one of those people that didn't have a perfectly fine normalish life. I decided to talk about somebody close to my family. His name is Daniel Garcia Carranza. On August 3rd, 1976, something not so normal happened to him. On that day, it had probably been a normal day in the seminary in Córdoba, Argentina, until people showed up at the building, knocked the door off, destroyed the building, and took everything and everybody but Juanita McCarthy. Those people were from the D2 police station and had been ordered by the military who was trying to take over the government. They were then taken first to the D2 station, and there they stayed a couple of days. Then they went to the second place. He was only there a couple of hours, but it was very hard. He had to witness people being beaten and people dying. In the third place, La Perla, he stayed 3 or 4 days. This one was the last, but probably the second most brutal. While in each place, he was very scared. He knew that he could be killed at any moment, and that he may or may not ever be able to see his family again. The places he stayed in served very little food, and he had barely any places to sleep. The one place you could sleep were very uncomfortable and very cold. It was not just him being held in all these places. He had said that around 2,000 people had passed through La Perla while he was in there. People came and went while he was still there, which must have been really hard seeing all these people leave and thinking, you might not ever be able to leave. Out of those people, around 200 survived. Once he was taken out, he was still very traumatized. Everything that he had a slight remembrance of while being held would scare him, like having the lights off. He struggled if a room was dark. He would need to have the lights on or he could not enter the room at that moment. He wasn't just released. Juanita McCarthy had been visiting from Bolivia that night and was on her way to get her visa fixed, but instead she decided to go to the U.S. to help them. She went around and asked the embassies, then asked around the Catholic community, but only the Catholic community really offered help. She then got in touch with one of the Kennedys, and that is when she found the help she needed. She worked with him to get Ramon Duaz, José Luis de Stefanzi, Daniel Garcia Carranza, Hugo Pantoja Tabilla, and James Martin Weeks, all exiled and brought to the U.S. While in the United States, Daniel worked at the Boston Children's Hospital as a medical interpreter, and there is where he met my mom. My mom had told me he didn't like talking about the touchy subjects, and now to this day he is still traumatized, but not as much as before. Almost 40 years later, the people that were traumatizing them and hurting them were sent to trial. Daniel was asked to be a witness, as well as a couple other people. One person in specifics didn't want to do it because he didn't want to remember all the bad things that had happened. Daniel had said that he needed to get mentally ready for it, but he was glad he had his family and friends with him.